Let's let it get the classroom or something. There. All right, so I guess the goal for the lesson was describe characters in a story, traits, and feelings. Explain how, and then. So, which students met that goal, or at least made progress towards it?
Out of 22 kids, an assessment that I gave the next day on traits, 10 of them were able to identify 2 traits for characters in a story.
10 out of
22.
Okay.
And 6 were able to identify 1 out of 2 traits correctly, and then 6 were unable to identify any traits correctly.
Okay. And then how many needed more support?
So those 12.
So 12.
Probably definitely the 6. The 6 that had 1 out of 2 were on the right track for some of them. Or they identified traits, but they weren't really traits of the characters in the story.
So they just need to make more connections and...
Yeah.
Okay. Do some students have learning characteristics or behaviors that were not considered in the lesson? So... I know you had mentioned some have.
Yeah, I have a few kids with ADHD, diagnosed ADHD. I don't have any diagnosed with learning disabilities as of yet. I have quite a few EL kids, so we could have maybe taken that more into consideration and maybe done more like acting out the traits. So that
I feel like
better,
for the planning it didn't necessarily, I mean, the multiple means of engagement that we did use can help them, especially like working with a partner, I feel.
Yeah.
But not to the extent that they needed as far as being ELL is concerned.
Right.
So.
Right. And using the whiteboard does help with student engagement, like with the kids with ADHD. That's funner to use a whiteboard than to just write it on a
sheet of paper.
Yeah. So they are more engaged when you do when you use different means to document.
Well, I think that goes in the next question then.
Okay.
So if we...
Skipping ahead.
No, that's fine. That's good. So in planning the subsequent lesson plan, then we can incorporate other means of engagement for ELLs and possibly acting out traits or maybe going into them more rather than just, okay, that was the trait, now we're moving on.
Right.
Okay.
I think it'd be fun to do like role play, like, bring 2 students up and have them role play.
Or even
the traits.
Yeah, or even if you don't have that much time, you can find out what the trait is and then have the student that gave you the answer maybe show you how you would act with that trait or the feeling, like show me how you feel that way or that kind of thing.
Right, that'd be good, yeah.
I feel each answer we do is like for the next question. So, considering student performance, what new techniques for presentation of a lesson to teach the standard should we consider? I mean, I feel that's kind of these questions kind of all go hand in hand, really.
They do. I feel like the students overall were very engaged in the lesson. I've shared that some of the kids have difficulties with focus, but I feel like the majority of the kids were focused during the lesson.
Yeah, I feel like they were there. They weren't, doing their own thing. I didn't have to redirect anybody or...
Nobody was drawing on their whiteboard.
Yeah, they were all pretty into it.
Right. So,
I mean, and I wasn't giving them a lot of time to wander either, so I guess that helps too. So.
Yeah, I think that's good, using the timer and keeping it short.
Yeah.
And giving them that expectation. So, yeah, I think maybe just, probably doing more of like the movement stuff, the physical response for the EL kids.
How can we change our expectations of engagement in the lesson? Some of these questions also make me think really hard too.
How can we change our expectation of engagement in the lesson? I think they were engaged.
Yes. Yeah.
I really think that they were. I think that having the whiteboards and having the partners and having an interesting story.
Yeah.
It was a fun story. And it was a good story to go along with character traits because the main character changes, which you said some of the kids noticed.
Yeah, there were a few kids who, without me prompting them at all, found that out on their own, and they pointed that out to me during the lesson, which was awesome to see.
Right, and that's one of the goals of that lesson also was that there was a lesson learned. Mm-hmm. And the lesson learned was that if you keep trying, you'll succeed. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, the kids understanding that the wolf changed throughout the story helped them understand that there was a lesson and being able to identify those traits. And I think what we talked about too was that the kids that had a hard time with the traits, they were identifying more actions or feelings than traits. Mm-hmm. And so maybe on the whiteboards next time having an action category. Is that the next question?
Yes.
Yeah, jumping ahead. Okay, I'll be quiet. Ask me your next question.
No, it's fine. We can just talk about it. I mean, she provided a lot of these questions, so I mean, this works. We can just talk. You know what we're talking about.
Right. Okay. So yeah, having that.
Yeah,
Action
another
category.
form of them to have expressions because they can actually write what the action was and then make the connection to the trait rather than just saying, "Oh, the wolf did this."
Right.
It's like, okay, well, how is he feeling, or what trait goes with that action,
Right.
rather than just, yeah, he jumped over something, or
Right.
he, you know.
And then I think they would understand better. Like that's an action. This is a trait instead of being confused
Well, like
about the
on
two.
like a lot of those, the 6 that got
Yeah.
1, they put a lot of actions rather than traits or feelings, right?
Yeah, they put feelings. Some of them put feelings. A lot of them put happy. So I
Oh,
mean, that's
okay.
almost like
Yeah.
you know, it's a feeling though. Actually, a lot of them put
Yeah,
happy.
but I think having that extra column of where they can just make that connection
actions,
and
yeah.
put
Yeah, like
2 and
she
2
put-
together. Because I think if they see it on paper, like, oh, I wrote this. Oh, I see it now. You know,
Right.
especially after doing it a few times, like you know, a full column's worth for a story, they can make the connection at least a few times there and meet that standard. So.
I agree. Yeah, a lot of these are the kids that did not get any right. A lot of them are actions like love, share,
Okay.
and what they did. Andy likes to build towers. They were
You know,
actions.
and I mean, I want them all to know it, how to do it, but at the same time, I'm happy that they were engaged and they were actively like trying to work through it, and they read the story and they were trying to find things, even if
Right.
half of them didn't get it. At least they were there and
Right.
they weren't just like goofing off or doing their own thing.
No.
Because
They were focused, and everybody had stuff written on their whiteboards that at least had to do with the story.
yeah,
So even if they didn't get like a trait or a character, they, or I mean a trait or a feeling, they were still writing things from the story.
and they were
taking things from the
actively
story.
like giving effort, which is a good
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, they did. They did a good job.
Well, thank you. That was easy.